Nikki, and Raj. I'm absolutely humbled by your life experiences, but I'm really humbled by how you use your voices. It's just amazing, and we need a lot more people like you. Thank you very much.
Your microphone will have to be closer to your mouth.
Okay. Should I say that again?
Yeah, that would be bad.
Okay, so I apologize. I'm humbled to be here, and as Charlie said, another white guy. But the way that Kushama, Charlie, Annie, Baltej, Nikki, and Raj, I'm humbled by their intellect and their vocation, but I'm really humbled by how they use their voices, and we need a lot more Canadians to use their voices the way I've heard today. Thank you.
First of all, it's Eid today, so many of our people who were going to be coming here did not come. So happy Eid to all of you who are here. Bob, I wanted this to be a very light-hearted chat with you.
That's all I can give.
But you've just come back from the US just a few days ago. You were at a special event.
I was in Washington, D.C. I am the chair of collections for the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. And we are living, which we've heard threads of today, as DEI is being completely annihilated, especially in the museum world. Even a short story is every contract we have, every piece of literature we have at the National Gallery is being edited to take out those 400 words that are considered as anti-white. And we received a letter that said it is none of our business to be involved in conservancy, and why is the climate any of the National Gallery's business? And we wrote back and said, we conserve paintings, nothing to do with the climate. But there is that hunt to remove every single word, and this is only 10 weeks into this president's election, and it's just started. It's very scary.
Now, you're an art collector. We've chosen you because you have helped many communities, especially the Chinese community, a lot. You've given your artwork to them for their museum. You talked about art, and I wanted to ask you a few questions about art. When did you get interested in art? Because you are known as the condo king. I think you should be called the condo emperor by now.
Well, the condo king is a word that I don't like, but it's
so
better. It's better than other words that they could call me, so I love it. But with art, I was married at 19 years old to Miyako is the mother of my children, and she was an artist. Mm-hmm. And I began to have fun with it. But I also we grew up very in humble beginnings, and I had rich relatives. We would go to their house for dinner, and I would watch how their friends would talk about the art on the walls and socially. But in the 90s, I met a man named Kerry James Marshall who said to me, if you go in a museum and you don't see a black figure in a painting on the wall, you think it doesn't belong, and I'm going to change that. And I had begun to collect works on social justice. We have a saying that, is it social justice or social jewelry? Unfortunately, it's usually social jewelry. But I built a collection raising artists' voices. And I met a number of artists that needed help, and I just went down that path with a disproportionate amount of African American artists who couldn't be seen at the time. But even in the 90s, I started collecting work by trans artists and on trans issues, knowing it would become a topic. Mm-hmm. I would think I think everybody knows my bias towards politics. I would think if Mr. Carney is elected, that one thing that I'll lobby him for is that trans men, trans women, early pregnancies, and possible gay marriages, the way things are going, are admitted here as refugees without a lot of questions asked. So I think it's our job as Canadians. And I know I wander so much, Shushma, but as we look at the political climate, I think a lot of Liberal voters had it with Justin Trudeau and are understood being fiscally responsible with a social conscience, and decided that they would just go over to the Conservative Party, plug their nose on social values, which is very unfortunate, but find somebody that was fiscally prudent. And now, all of a sudden, the stars have aligned and Mr. Trudeau left. And my goal in backing Mr. Carney really early was, if Poilievre was going to win, I wanted him to have a minority government, so I had an adult in the room. And I have back to art, I have a painting from 1936 by Alice Neal that says Nazis murder Jews. That's 7 years before the Holocaust.
Wow.
The topic was there. Are we living in that right now? Because this is no longer entertainment. This is tipping the world. And I think that we should listen to all of these speakers and be scared, but raise our voices.
You know, you mentioned at the age of 19, I know that you sold your very first home. How was that?
I grew up in a very complex family. It's, you know, we all, as we get older, we go to this race to the bottom, who suffered more. But my mother, between being 10 years old and 18 years old, my mother left my father 17 times, and sometimes with the furniture.
With the furniture?
With the furniture.
With the furniture.
And one of the last times, my parents bought a home in 1952 for $7,500, paid it off, $54 a month for 25 years. I never made a bonus payment, nothing. But my mother said, we're going to sell the house. And she called a realtor, and she made a chocolate cake and coffee. And I had quit grade 12. And I sat at the table with this realtor, and he said the house next door sold for $38,000. It's on a 42.5-foot lot. The house behind you sold for $33,000 because it's on a 33-foot lot. And I thought, wow, you don't need historical data. You just need current data. I don't need an education for this. And I was a smart kid. So I sent away for my real estate license and my bartender's license, whichever one came first. And I was just fortunate that I believed that nobody could work as hard as me. And the real estate license came first. I'm often asked what would have happened if the bartender license came first. And to Richard Jaffrey's dismay, I always say I would own Cactus Club. So go ahead.
Now your parents, when you were born in Vancouver.
Yes, yes.
And the upbringing by your parents is your background, is
Yes.
your foundation.
Yes.
And what do you take from, you said your mom would leave home with furniture sometimes.
With the furniture.
Did that in any way make you feel a little uncomfortable?
Well, I from 12 years old, I never had a bank account till I was 16 or 17. I would pay their bills. I would take $20 and go to the post office and get a money order and pay Cablevision and pay their telephone bill. But I think that the complexities of an upbringing like that it taught me to understand the diversity of the clients and to deal with their complex personalities. And I'll tie it right back to art, Shushma, is I was going to buy a very important painting from the 1500s by a lady named Artemisia Gentileschi. She was raped by her father's studio assistant, and her father was an artist, and she challenged him. She was beaten, she was abused, but she won in court. And I wanted a painting by her, and we went to Paris to look at it. The auction house said, go over to the conservator. Went to the conservator, and there's that there's a painting, it's Lucretia with a knife against her breast. And he said, let's take it outside. I said, it's starting to rain. He said, no, all art must be looked at in the light it was painted in. So that's what art is, it was painted in natural light. So let's look at it in natural light. But I was able to transfer that into how we deal with people. And we have to look at the same question you're asking me, is we have to look at people in the light they were painted in. So I came from a very poor, humble background, but not as poor as a lot of others. And I'll go there for you is probably my biggest challenge, that I can't go near the racial prejudice so many people in this room have been through, but I changed my sexuality, and working in the construction industry with the development community, the odds of that working were zero. But I made it through.
Oh, you certainly have made it through, for sure. Now, I know that, real estate attracts you. Is it because you saw that very quickly you could make money and life would be a little easier and better?
I wish it was about the money. Everybody who's had some success always says, oh, it's not the money. It was the art collection.
It was.
I knew that if I made money, I could build the collection.
Right.
For those of you that don't know us, I have 4,000 works in the art collection. There's 6 people that run on a day-to-day basis, and it's the reason I have to keep working is to support that. But to me, it was like if I'm sitting in a boardroom, I can leave for 15 minutes, have an art conversation with a curator, a museum, an artist, or an auction house, and go right back to work. It's equivalent to a lot of people going out golfing for the whole day, is I found something to ease the stress so that I could tolerate some of the challenges of being in business.
I'm going to ask you a silly question. Have you bought anything that you've looked at and said, what was I thinking?
About 3,000 works. Yeah. But to me, there's no mistakes in the collection, and there's no mistakes in life, because everything is context. Every challenge, everyone up there, and we all go through, informs us. And that informs us to move along. And we have all these cliche sayings, but it's something that my ex-wife gave to me when we opened the brokerage business, is a man that adheres to a position previously stated when times change is an idiot. That we're computers, we're on a path. As new information comes in, it reinforces the path we're on, or it changes the path we're on. But we have to listen to the data as it comes in.
I'm going to ask you a political question. Just recently you said that the government should let foreign investment in housing be made.
So, and I took a lot of shit for it. Excuse me. So what it is I got together with Mr. Carney and then with his policymakers on housing. And I've spoken to David Eby on this. I spoke to Ravi Kahlon's office the other day, and that word foreign investment upsets people.
Yes.
Foreign buyers more so. But we're going, for immigration, we're going into 2 years of negative population growth in Canada. First time since Confederation. Births minus deaths, less moderate immigration, negative population growth. Well, either we're going to 80% taxes, or we're going to need people to bring me a bedpan and be my lawyer 20 years from now. So I think we'll end up going for targeted immigration, but if a tower out here, and Brenda, I just want to give a shout out to Brenda. I think Brenda's heart that she has for your community is irreplaceable. And it's just, you're so lucky. To investors, it has to enter a 25-year rental pool, investors in this room, but also allow foreign investment. I have to show that Canada is open for business. And if one of the smallest ways we can show we're open for business is allow foreign investment to buy suite or suites, but they're rented out for 25 years.
Okay, but people who invest their money in buying these suites would want the most
be sold as owner occupied until the end of 25 years. And one of the challenges I had from Ravi Kahlon's office and his policy person is, oh great, it all goes condo in 25 years. And I said, could you imagine if I had 6 25-year-old buildings today that were offering affordable home ownership in a 25-year-old building? But I want to marry it to targeted immigration that if we need nurses, let's bring in nurses. If we need unskilled labor, let's bring in unskilled labor. If we need doctors, let's bring in doctors. This is for people way smarter than I am. But when are we going to show the world that we are open for business? So I need to find soft spots. So if foreign money can solve my immigration problem, then it can be socialized. But the trouble is, as soon as you say foreign investment, everybody just hair's on fire.
Yeah, I know, and I think what happens is people start talking about what happened during the Liberal government here, shadow flipping and things like that.
But you know, so Christy Clark caused racism when she put in the foreign buyer tax. Carol Taylor and I spent 3 months trying to get her to put a speculation tax in, that once your name goes on title, if you sell before 3 years, you end up with capital gains, but in year 1 and 2, if you sell it, 75 to 50% of the profit goes to the government. That, to me, would have covered everybody, because the foreign investment that's flipping is probably 15%. It's 85% by this room, by locals. And different than Toronto, people become speculators. They don't purchase as a speculator. They buy as a family investment. They know they're going to have to put 25% down. But then from the time of purchasing to 3 years of construction, if it's gone up over 30%, everybody's a speculator. Because they, why don't I take that money out? I'll do it again. I'll buy a car. I'll pay off the house. So you don't buy being a flipper, but you end up being one if the market's moved. We're going into much more stabilized markets. And I think that forcing this group of buyers, and it's not just aimed at foreign investors, it's people that will put their money away, have a preferred interest rate, and own a product for 25 years that you virtually come out clear title. But as soon as something needs defending, and I'm the worst to do it because I benefit from the solution. We need people that want to do this that don't benefit from the solution to talk about it more.
You know, we could talk about this for a long time, but I'm getting, notes saying that I have to move on to the next topic. I understand, and is it true, that you've received 2,500 parking tickets?
I think you're light, but in 2004, I was on the front page of the paper as receiving the most parking tickets ever. I get up, and I paid them. It's a form of tax. So I've always paid every.
All of them are paid. So you're working for the city.
Mr. Chisholm in the early 2000s at City Hall would phone my office and say he's got 20 tickets due the end of the month. Pay them early. My office was right around the corner from where all the parking attendants gathered. I get up at 5:04 now, 7 days a week. I used to get up at 4:30. And they just ticket me right away. And it was easier. I drove myself then. It was way easier to have the car always there. I would have bought a parking meter, but they don't allow you to do those things. But people think I didn't pay them. Of course I paid them. I would have
all of them.
Every ticket gets paid.
Every ticket.
Yes, but I don't. I think I have 2 parking tickets a year now. I might have 4, but that's just a myth from so long ago.
Are you being driven now and dropped?
I have one eye, and I live on my phone.
Oh, okay.
And my son had a call saying, your dad just went through a red light going onto the Bard Street Bridge looking at his phone, and we decided about 10 years ago, probably for the safety of others and myself, that I should have somebody with me.
Especially the Chinese community. How did you feel about that?
Well, it's not just the Chinese community, it's everybody. My niece, a beautiful 38-year-old woman, goes jogging in Kitsilano and gets yelled at, go back to China. And I think the foreign buyer tax is part of that. We don't seem to be yelling at people to go back to Holland. It's just this go back to China. I mean, the South Asian community, you go through the same problems. The reason I'm just a little more sympathetic because it's in my community. I restored the oldest building in Vancouver's Chinatown.
Right.
And when John Horgan phoned and said, would you consider giving it to the Chinese Canadian Museum, I didn't give them the building. I gave them part of the building, and we gave them a substantial donation, but the NDP government saw that this is a form of reconciliation. Let's help them get back the first Chinese Canadian museum in the oldest building in Vancouver's Chinatown. And it was the right thing to do. But when I mentioned it to my son, he said, I'll handle the negotiations, but once I start, you're not allowed to be Bob or change your mind or get all emotional about it or something. And we went through with it, and it's something as a family we're really proud of.
And we are already proud of that you've done that for the Chinese community and for the museum, really.
Yeah, but I'm sitting here getting all these accolades, but look what you do for the community, Shushma. So we only see in others what we have in ourselves, and just what you and your family do. I don't know whether I feel so awkward, and I'm very nervous accepting.
Is it because you're
like
a billionaire?
No, I wish. Had I been tough, I would have been. But no.
It is lovely to have you here and talk to you. There's so many different things that I could talk to you about. When I do a program called Women in Focus, I go deep into their lives and ask them comfortable and uncomfortable
Ask me anything.
How uncomfortable?
My wife and children.
Yeah.
That's the most uncomfortable thing. My ex-wife is way smarter than I am. I would have never opened up a company if it wasn't for her. But I think it humbled my children that it wasn't an easy path to live in Burnaby with a gay father. There was only me, Howard Carter, and Sven Robinson, as far as I was concerned. And we just decided that we're good humans, and I would be a businessman who's gay rather than a gay businessman. And we led through that, but I'm here with my boyfriend Wesley, and I was away on an art trip on Thanksgiving, and Wesley had dinner at my ex-wife's house with all the children. We all signed off that life is complicated, and what can we all do to get through it. The biggest stigma I put on myself, that would the development community accept this? Do I have to change my career? Where does it fit? And we just sort of went about it calmly, and nobody cares. They don't want you saying, you have to look after me because I'm South Asian. They want you to be you want to be on an equal footing with people. And the world changed drastically.
Yes.
But the one thing tying it to today and DEI, I came out in 1992. The 80s into the 90s was AIDS. And it was very controversial, but to fight for gay rights was done with pure advocacy. There was no social media. So today, when you're fighting for equality, that 10% occupy all of the airspace on social media.
Yes.
And then when you fight it, it comes off that you're fighting for superiority, and all as you wanted to be was equal. So we're going to have to find new ways to fight diversity, equity, and inclusion through our actions. But social media, it's a setup now. It just comes off as you want to be better than somebody else, which you see south of the border, they're just cashing in on that. And it's gonna get ugly. It's gonna get worse. And listening to Kashama, that is a strong voice who can't cross the border anymore. But the canary in the coal mine is the Penthouse nightclub in downtown Vancouver. They put on their marquee sign, "We are neighbors," B-O-U-R-S, not neighbors, B-O-R-S. And they were banned from Twitter, X.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how much they're watching. I heard that somebody at the border the other day, a border guard said, "What is your opinion of our president?" The driver said, "Neutral." Someone in the car said something negative. They were turned back.
Really?
It's Big Brother is really watching, and I don't want to make this heavier than it is, but I think we should all be very, very careful that, as Mr. Carney said, our relationship with America will never ever be the same. No, I'll make it lighthearted with artificial intelligence. I don't worry about it because my 6 grandchildren won't know a world without it.
Yes.
When this came in, I was petrified, but we learned to use it.
Yes.
I may be past the understanding AI fully, but it'll be figured out. And when things get tough enough, people are going to raise their voices, and there will be a huge resistance.
Bob, it's fantastic to meet you and to talk to you. And we are very pleased that you accepted our invitation to come today.
Oh, I am honored.